The tires shrieked as the minivan flipped, metal crumpling, glass exploding. 14-year-old Lily Carter's neck snapped on impact. Then, silence. As paramedics fought to revive her lifeless body, Lily wasn't in the wreckage at all. She was above it, watching her own broken form. But the real terror began when Jesus showed her the truth, about the shadows clinging to every screen, the chains tightening with every scroll, and the war for her generation's soul. She came back with a warning. This is what she saw. Hold on a minute, if you have not subscribed to this channel, do well to subscribe, like, comment and share videos of this channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell.
My name is Lily Carter. I'm 14 years old, an 8th grader from Austin, Texas, just an ordinary girl who spent more time on my phone than with my own family, until the day I died in that car wreck and Jesus showed me the terrifying truth about what our screens are really doing to us. The last thing I remember was the sound, metal screaming, glass shattering, my mom's voice cutting off mid-yell. Then, suddenly, I wasn't in the car anymore. I was above it. Looking down. The rain had turned the road into a blurry mirror, flashing red and blue from the ambulance lights. Our minivan was crushed like a soda can. And there I was, my body, slumped in the back seat. My head was tilted at a weird angle, my hair matted with blood. My favorite hoodie was torn. I didn't even look like me. People were running. A paramedic was pulling my little brother Ethan out, his face pale, his arm hanging limp. My mom was on her knees by the wreck, screaming my name over and over. A firefighter held her back, but she fought him, her hands clawing at the air like she could drag me out herself. I tried to yell, "Mom. I'm right here. I'm okay." But she didn't look up. No one did. I reached for her, but my hand went straight through her shoulder. That's when I realized I wasn't really there. Not the way I used to be. I turned back to my body, half expecting to wake up, to snap back into it like a rubber band. But nothing happened. I just floated there, watching the paramedics rip open the car door, their mouths moving but no sound reaching me. One of them checked my wrist, then my neck. He looked at his partner and shook his head. That's when the panic should have hit me. But it didn't. Instead, something else happened, the noise, the lights, even the cold November rain, it all started fading. The ambulance sirens got quieter. The flashing lights dimmed. The world was dissolving, like someone was turning down the volume on reality. Then, warmth. Not like a blanket or a heater, but like sunlight soaking into your skin after being cold for too long. Gentle. Alive. The wreck, the paramedics, my mom's crying, it all melted away, replaced by this golden light that didn't hurt my eyes. It felt like home. Like I'd been holding my breath my whole life and finally remembered how to exhale. I wasn't scared. I should have been, but I wasn't. It was like the light knew me. Like it had been waiting. And then, I wasn't alone anymore. The light wasn't empty. Someone was standing there. Not standing, really, more like the light itself had taken shape. At first I couldn't make out details, just this overwhelming sense of love so strong it made my chest ache. Then I saw his face. This wasn't the pale, sad Jesus from my Sunday school books. This was different. His skin looked warm, like sunlight through honey. His eyes. I'll never forget his eyes. They burned, but not in a scary way. Like fire and mercy mixed together, seeing right through me but still wanting me anyway. Before I could say anything, he spoke my name. Just one word, Lily. But when he said it, I felt known. Really known, not the way my friends at school knew me, or even my family. He knew everything. Every thought I'd ever had, every mean thing I'd whispered about myself in the mirror, every tear I'd cried alone in my room at 2 a.m. scrolling through Instagram comparing myself to girls with perfect skin and perfect lives. Suddenly, my whole life played out around us like a movie only we could see. There I was at age 7, praying before bed like Mom taught me. There I was at 12, deleting my third selfie in a row because my nose looked too big. There I was last month, snapping at Ethan when he asked me to play basketball because I was too busy watching TikTok dances. Every moment, good and bad, just hanging in the air between us. The worst part? He saw all of it, the times I'd cheated on math tests, the lies I'd told my parents, even the thoughts I'd had about giving up, and he didn't look away. Not once. His eyes stayed locked on mine, and they were wet with tears. "You've been so tired," he said, and it wasn't an accusation. Just truth. I realized he'd been there every night I'd cried myself to sleep feeling ugly and alone. He'd been reaching for me every time I reached for my phone instead. I fell to my knees, "Do you even have knees when you're not really in a body?" and started sobbing. Not because I was ashamed, though I should have been. Because for the first time in my life, I felt completely loved. Not loved if you change, not loved when you're good, just loved. Period. He crouched down in front of me, this king of kings kneeling like I was the important one. When he wiped my tears, his hands weren't some ghostly thing, they were solid and warm, scarred but strong. The nail marks should have scared me, but they just made me cry harder. "You don't have to hide anymore," he whispered. And I believed him. All the masks I wore for school, for social media, even for church, they melted away in that light. He already knew the real me. The broken, jealous, scared me. And he still wanted me. That's when I noticed the shadows around my memories, dark smudges at the edges of all those lonely nights with my phone. They squirmed when Jesus looked at them. "Come," he said, helping me up. "There's more you need to see." Jesus took my hand, and suddenly we weren't in the light anymore. We stood in what looked like a massive warehouse, endless and dark, stretching farther than I could see. But instead of boxes or shelves, there were screens. Thousands of them, floating in midair like some weird futuristic nightmare. Each screen showed a kid my age or younger, their faces glowing blue in the dark. Some sat in bedrooms, some in school bathrooms, some at dinner tables with their families right there but completely ignored. Their eyes. God, their eyes were empty. Like no one was home behind them. I recognized that look. I'd seen it in my own reflection so many times. Then I noticed the shadows. At first they were just dark blurs at the edges of the screens. But as I watched, they took shape, twisted figures with two long fingers that slithered over kids' shoulders, whispering in ears I knew couldn't hear anything else through their headphones. "Look at her waist," one hissed to a girl scrolling Instagram. The girl pinched her own stomach and frowned. "Your dad left because you're worthless," another murmured to a boy gaming at 3 a.m. His jaw clenched as he punched his desk. I wanted to scream at them to stop listening, but then I saw the chains. They started small, thin, almost invisible threads connecting phones to wrists. But with every scroll, every angry comment typed, every hour wasted, the chains grew thicker. Some kids had them wrapped around their necks like dog leashes, their devices hanging heavy as anchors. One girl, she couldn't have been older than 12. Had chains so thick they dragged her shoulders down as she stared at a TikTok feed full of girls with fillers and filters. "That's not real," I whispered, pointing at a photoshopped influencer. "Why can't she see it's fake?" Jesus' voice was gentle but grieving. "The enemy doesn't need them to worship him. He just needs them too distracted to hear me." As he spoke, the warehouse walls melted away, revealing millions more screens. A sea of children across the world, all chained to devices that promised connection but delivered loneliness. Some were watching things no kid should ever see. Others were posting things they'd regret forever. All while those shadow things fed on their pain like it was a feast. One boy caught my eye. Couldn't have been older than Ethan. He was watching some violent video, his pupils huge, fingers twitching. With every second he watched, the shadows around him grew darker, more solid. "Make it stop," I begged Jesus. He turned me to face another screen, my own bedroom back home. There I was, just last week, crying over some stupid meme comparing hot girls to regular ones. A shadow had been curled around my neck like a scarf, whispering, "You'll never be her." The worst part? I'd believed it. "This is the battlefield no one talks about," Jesus said. "Not guns or wars, pixels and lies. They're losing years they'll never get back." I watched as chains slowly crushed the laughter out of a group of girls filming a dance trend. Saw a boy's homework sit untouched while he chased just one more level. Watched a family eat dinner in silence, each glued to their own screen. And the shadows laughed. Jesus waved his hand, and the warehouse of screens disappeared. In its place stood a giant hourglass, taller than my house. But instead of sand, it was filled with glowing fragments, little pieces of time slipping away. "That's me," I whispered. Because I could see now, each glowing speck was a moment from my life. The bottom half of the hourglass was nearly full. 6,300 hours, Jesus said quietly. 9 months of your life. Gone. I did the math in my head. That was almost 2 hours every single day since I got my first phone at age 10. 2 hours I could have spent learning guitar. Or helping mom cook. Or actually playing with Ethan like I promised. Then the hourglass shimmered, and suddenly I was reliving my memories like I was really there again. Grandpa's last birthday, the scene materialized around me, the familiar clutter of his retirement home apartment, the smell of his peppermint candies. There I was, 13-year-old me, slouched on his couch scrolling Snapchat while he tried to show me his old war photos. "Look at this one, Lilybug," he'd said, voice cracking. "That's me and your grandma on our honeymoon." In the memory, teenage me barely glanced up. Cool. Tapped my screen to watch some influencer's Starbucks order instead. Now, watching from outside myself, I saw how Grandpa's smile had faltered. How he'd carefully closed the photo album. He died 3 weeks later, and I never did look at those pictures. Ethan's forgotten invitation, the scene changed to last summer, golden afternoon light streaming through our backyard trees. 8-year-old Ethan stood holding 2 water guns, bouncing with excitement. "Lily. Come play." I set up an obstacle course and everything. But memory me was lying on the grass filming my feet for some aesthetic TikTok trend. "Go away, pest. I'm busy." I watched his little face crumple. Watched him drag the water guns back inside alone. How many times had I done that? How many times had he stopped asking? The night no one saw, now I was back in my bedroom 2 months ago, too. 17 a.m. glowing on my clock. I was having another panic attack, the bad kind where your chest feels like it's collapsing. On my screen, some girl's perfect morning routine with her perfect skin. What I couldn't see then, but could see now, was Jesus sitting right beside me on the bed. His hand hovering over mine, ready to comfort. But I'd grabbed my phone instead, opening Instagram like it was some kind of life raft. Scene after scene flashed by. Me pretending to listen to mom's work stories while actually texting skipping youth group to stay home and binge YouTube, taking 87 selfies to get one good enough to post each time, the same pattern, Jesus reaching out. Me reaching for a screen instead. "It was never about the phone," he said as the visions faded. "It was about where you turned when you hurt. Who you trusted to tell you who you are." I looked at the mountain of wasted hours in that hourglass and finally understood. All those times I thought I was just killing time? I was letting something kill me, slowly, quietly, one scroll at a time. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, and suddenly we were standing in my living room, but not the one I knew. The first thing I noticed was the laughter. Real, belly-deep laughter that made the walls feel alive. There was Dad, my actual dad, not the stressed-out version who was always half listening behind his laptop. Rolling around on the carpet with Ethan in some ridiculous wrestling match. Mom was curled up in the corner actually reading a book for fun, her feet tucked under her. And there was me. A different me. This Lily sat cross-legged on the floor with colored pencils scattered everywhere, sketching while Ethan peeked over her shoulder. "Draw me as a superhero," he begged, and this other version of me didn't sigh or tell him to wait. She flipped to a fresh page and started drawing with this easy smile I hadn't felt on my own face in years. On the coffee table, an unfinished board game, not a single phone in sight. Through the window, I could see the golden hour light turning everything warm, the kind of light I usually only noticed when I was trying to get the perfect Instagram shot. This. My voice cracked. This was possible? Jesus didn't answer right away. He let me take it in. The way Dad's eyes crinkled when he laughed, how Mom looked up from her book just to watch us like we were her favorite movie. The peace in it. The togetherness. Then, softly, this was tonight. If you'd all put the screens down. The weight of those words hit me like a punch. This wasn't some fantasy. This was what our family could have had, what we'd traded away without even realizing it. I watched alternate me ruffle Ethan's hair as he admired his superhero portrait. Saw Dad get up to kiss Mom's forehead just because. Noticed the Bible sitting open on the side table instead of buried under a pile of magazines and charging cables. Look closer, Jesus murmured. The scene shifted slightly, same living room, but now I could see what I'd never noticed before. Tiny miracles everywhere. The way Dad's shoulders weren't hunched with work stress, how Mom's worry line between her eyebrows had smoothed out, that Ethan didn't have those dark circles under his eyes anymore, and me. My hands weren't picking at my nails like they always did when I was anxious all this time. I'd thought we needed our phones to relax. But here we were, relaxed for real. Connected for real. Then Jesus did something that wrecked me completely. He showed me the same scene from heaven's perspective. I could see gentle light wrapping around my family like invisible arms, God's presence right there in the middle of our ordinary living room. And I understood, He'd been trying to give us this all along. We just kept choosing noise over His peace. The vision started fading, but not before I saw alternate me do something that shattered my heart. She looked right at me, the real me floating there with Jesus, and whispered, "We miss you." Then the living room was gone, and it was just me and Jesus again in that endless, loving light. "You traded this," he said quietly, "for pixels that can't love you back." And for the first time, I realized, the worst part of my addiction wasn't the time I'd wasted. It was the love I'd missed. The first thing I felt was pain. Not the peaceful floating anymore, real, sharp, alive pain. My chest burned like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. There were voices shouting, machines beeping, and a bright light stabbing my eyes. "She's back. We've got a pulse." I couldn't talk, there was a tube down my throat, but my hands flew up on their own, fingers grasping at the air like I could pull myself back to that golden light. Strong hands pinned my wrists to the bed. "Lily, sweetheart, you're okay. You're in the hospital." Mom's voice, raw from crying. The doctors later told me I'd been clinically dead for 14 minutes. Medically inexplicable, they called it. One nurse kept crossing herself every time she walked past my room. When they finally took the breathing tube out, my throat felt shredded. Everyone leaned in, Dad, even Ethan peeking from behind them, waiting for my first words. "Throw." I croaked, wincing at the pain, "Away my phone." Mom burst into tears. Not delicate crying, great, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She pressed her forehead to mine, her tears mixing with the sweat on my face. "It's gone, baby. It got crushed in the crash." I started crying too, but not from pain. From relief. Like someone had cut an invisible chain off my neck. The new rules once I was home, everything looked the same but completely different. Like I was seeing our house for the first time. Dad made a wooden box with family time burned into the lid. Every night at 6 p.m., all our devices went in it, no exceptions. The first few days were awkward. We'd sit at the dinner table actually looking at each other, not knowing what to say. Then Ethan blurted out, "Lily died and saw Jesus and now we're all weird." We laughed so hard milk came out of Mom's nose. Slowly, we remembered how to be together. Board games dusted off. Walks after dinner where we'd count fireflies instead of checking notifications. Mom dug out her old camera, the real kind with film, and we started a photo album you could actually hold. Ethan's sketchbook. The biggest shock was my little brother. One morning I found him quietly drawing at the kitchen table instead of glued to his violent shooter games. "Those demons you saw," he said without looking up, "were they like the ones in my games?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't even told him that part. I sat beside him. Kinda. But real. He pushed his sketchbook toward me. Instead of guns and blood, he'd drawn angels with flaming swords standing between kids and shadowy figures. In the corner, one angel looked suspiciously like Jesus high-fiving a little boy who looked like Ethan. "I like drawing these better," he mumbled. That's when I started crying again. School divided. Going back to school was harder than the physical therapy. My old friend group vacated the lunch table when I sat down. "Sorry," one girl said. "Not sorry, we don't want to hear about your religious experience." The air quotes stung. But Ava stayed. My quiet, artsy friend who'd always been too scared to eat in front of people. She slid her phone across the table, Instagram deleted. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. In whispers between classes, at her kitchen table doing homework, on the phone, the landline her parents still had. I told her about the warehouse of screens. The chains. The way Jesus looked at me like I was worth more than all the likes in the world. A week later, she showed up at my house with her own wooden box. "Made it in shop class," she said. "For when I visit." The doubts. Not everyone believed me. Some kids made cross eyes when I walked by. A science teacher joked about oxygen deprivation causing hallucinations. Sometimes, at 3 a.m. when the house was quiet, I'd wonder myself. Had I just imagined it all? Maybe my brain made up Jesus to cope with nearly dying. Then I'd hear Ethan's soft snores from his room, no more nightmares since he quit the games. See Mom's Bible on the coffee table instead of her phone. Feel the strange new warmth in our house, like the walls themselves were breathing easier. And I'd know. When Jesus told me I had to go back, I grabbed his hands like a little kid begging to stay up past bedtime. "No. Please, let me stay here with you." My voice cracked. "They won't even miss me. Dad's always working, Mom's exhausted, Ethan just wants his games." Even as I said it, I knew how spoiled I sounded. But the thought of returning to that life, the constant noise, the loneliness, the chains I hadn't even known were there, made my chest ache worse than the crash had. Jesus cupped my face. His thumbs wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "Lily," he said softly, "who do you think kept praying for you when you stopped praying for yourself?" A new vision flashed between us, Mom on her knees by my hospital bed, lips moving silently. Dad crying in the chapel when he thought no one could see. Ethan hiding under his blankets whispering, "Please don't let Lily die." My breath caught. All this time I'd felt invisible, but they'd seen me. Loved me. Even when I was too distracted to notice. "You're right about one thing," Jesus continued. "The enemy's been stealing from your family just like he stole from you." He nodded toward the fading image of the screen-free living room. "But it's not too late to fight back." I swallowed hard. "How?" "Tell them what you saw. The chains. The shadows. The lies." His eyes burned brighter. "Wake them up, Lily. Before more time gets stolen." I wanted to argue. To say I wasn't brave enough, that no one would listen. But then he smiled, that smile that made the stars seem dim, and suddenly I knew, he wouldn't ask me to do this alone. "Okay," I whispered. That's when he reached out and touched my forehead. The light exploded. Not the gentle glow from before, this was like getting sucked into a tornado of pure brightness. I felt myself falling, spinning, the warmth slipping away as cold rushed in. Voices I didn't recognize shouted in the distance. Something sharp stabbed my arm. Then, pain. Real, raw, human pain. My lungs screamed for air. My ribs felt crushed. Every nerve ending fired at once like my body was rebelling against being alive again. I gasped, choking around the tube in my throat. Blinding hospital lights replaced the golden glow. Hands held me down as I thrashed. Lily. Squeeze my hand if you can hear me, a doctor barked. I squeezed. And just like that, I was back. The beeping of machines was the first sound that registered. Sharp, rhythmic, insistent. Then came the pain, not the phantom pain of my spirit floating above the wreckage, but real, raw, physical agony. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass. My chest burned where the seatbelt had nearly cut me in half during the crash. Lily? Sweetheart, can you hear me? Mom's voice sounded like it was coming through water. I forced my eyes open, blinking against the fluorescent lights. Her face swam into view, puffy from crying, mascara smeared down her cheeks. Behind her, Dad stood stiffly, his hands gripping the hospital bed rail like he was afraid I might disappear again. A doctor shined a light in my eyes. Welcome back, Lily. You gave us quite a scare. Later, they would tell me the medical facts. 14 minutes without a heartbeat, 3 broken ribs, a lacerated liver, miraculous neurological recovery, but in that moment, all I could think about was the crushing weight of being back in my body, the ache of lungs that needed to breathe, the itch of 4 lines in my arms, the way my tongue stuck to the roof of my dry mouth. Most of all, I remembered the light. And the chains. When they finally removed the breathing tube, my family leaned in, waiting for my first words. My throat felt shredded, but I managed to throw away my phone. Mom collapsed into sobs, her entire body shaking as she clutched my hand. Dad turned away to hide his tears. Only Ethan seemed to understand immediately. It's already gone, he said solemnly. Crushed in the crash. I started crying too, not from pain, but from relief. Like someone had cut an invisible noose from around my neck. The new normal coming home was stranger than dying. Our house looked the same, but everything felt different. Like I was seeing it for the first time. The sunlight through the kitchen windows. The way the floorboards creaked in that one spot near the stairs. Even the smell of Dad's coffee in the morning. I'd never really noticed these things before. Dad built a wooden box with family time burned into the lid. Every evening at 6 p.m., all devices went inside. No exceptions. The first few dinners were painfully awkward. We'd sit there chewing, not knowing what to say to each other after years of half-conversations interrupted by notifications. Then one night, Ethan broke the silence. If Lily died and went to heaven, does that mean she's, like, a zombie now? Mom spit out her water. Dad snorted into his mashed potatoes. And for the first time in years, we laughed together, really laughed until our sides hurt. Ethan's renaissance, the biggest shock was my little brother. One morning I found him at the kitchen table with a sketchbook instead of his usual violent video games. His tongue poked out in concentration as he shaded what looked like angels. Those demons you saw, he asked without looking up, were they like the monsters in my games? My stomach dropped. I hadn't told him that part. I sat beside him. Kind of. But real. He pushed the sketchbook toward me. Instead of guns and blood, he'd drawn warriors of light standing between kids and shadowy figures. In the corner, one angel, who looked suspiciously like Jesus, was giving a thumbs up to a little boy who looked like Ethan. I like drawing these better, he mumbled. That's when I realized my death had changed all of us. School divided. Returning to 8th grade was harder than physical therapy. My old friend group abandoned our lunch table the moment I sat down. Sorry, Madison said with fake sweetness, we don't want to hear about your little religious hallucination. But Ava stayed. My quiet, artistic friend who used to edit my selfies before I posted them. She slid her phone across the table. Instagram and Snapchat deleted. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. In whispers between classes, during sleepovers, where we actually talked instead of just taking pictures, through letters when our parents made us use the landline after 9 p.m. I told her about the warehouse of screens. The chains. The way Jesus looked at me like I was worth more than all the followers in the world. A month later, Ava showed me her screen time report, from 7 hours daily to 47 minutes. I sleep through the night now, she confessed. No more 3 a.m. scrolls. The doubts not everyone believed me. Mr. Callahan, my science teacher, joked about oxygen deprivation causing visions. Kids I'd known since kindergarten crossed themselves when I walked by. Even Pastor Rick asked if I'd considered that maybe my subconscious created Jesus to cope with trauma. Sometimes at 2 a.m., when the house was quiet, I'd wonder too. Had I imagined it all? Maybe my dying brain made up comforting stories. Then I'd hear Ethan's soft snores, no more nightmares since he quit the violent games. See Mom's well-worn Bible on the coffee table instead of her phone. Feel the strange new warmth in our home, like the walls themselves were breathing easier. And I'd remember. The light was real. The chains were real. The choice is always ours. Old habits don't die just because you do. 3 months after the accident, I caught myself doing it again. Sitting on the couch after school, my fingers twitching toward where my phone used to live in my back pocket. Out of nowhere, this overwhelming urge to scroll TikTok hit me like a physical craving. My palms actually got sweaty. I froze, hand hovering in midair. The shadows still whisper. They're quieter now, more subtle. They don't scream you're ugly, like they used to. Instead, when I pass a mirror, I'll hear, wouldn't a quick filter help? When I'm bored in class, just check one notification, what's the harm? But now I recognize their voices. The relapse, the worst moment came at Ava's birthday sleepover. Everyone was taking group selfies, and for the first time since coming back, I felt that old familiar itch, the need to pose just right, to get the perfect shot, to be seen. I borrowed someone's phone to look at the pictures. Big mistake. There I was in the preview, my smile too wide, my hair not quite sitting right. And suddenly the shadows were back, hissing, look how much prettier everyone else is. They're just being nice to you. My hands started shaking. The room felt too hot. Then I remembered Jesus had shown me this exact trap in the warehouse of screens. I shoved the phone back at its owner like it had burned me. Ava noticed. Later, when everyone else was asleep, she whispered, was it them? I nodded. She grabbed my hand. Me too. Earlier, when I was fixing my makeup for the 3rd time. We stayed up all night praying together, not fancy prayers, just talking to Jesus like he was right there with us. Because he was. The armor mom found me crying in the laundry room a week later. It's not fair. I sobbed into a pile of clean towels. Why do I have to fight this every day? The other kids don't they? Mom sat down beside me, her own eyes wet. Lily, you're just the only one who can see the battle now. She was right. I started noticing it everywhere, the way Madison's hand trembled when she couldn't check her likes during class, how Tyler would get angry if anyone interrupted his gaming, that glazed look in people's eyes during lunch. All of us together but completely alone. The chains were real. They'd just become invisible again. The resistance, so we fought back in small ways. The 5-second rule. When I feel the scroll urge, I count to 5 out loud. By 3, I usually remember the warehouse. The jar. Every time I resist a temptation, I add a marble. When it's full, our whole family goes out for ice cream. The alarm. My watch buzzes at 3 p.m., my Jesus check-in time. Just 60 seconds to ask, what do you want me to see right now? It's not perfect. Some days I lose more battles than I win. But Jesus never scolds me, he just keeps showing up. The invitation. Here's what I know now that I wish I'd known before, that ache you feel at 2 a.m. when you're scrolling but can't remember why. That's your soul starving for something pixels can't give. Those times you suddenly put your phone down for no reason, that empty feeling in your chest? That's Jesus whispering, I'm here. The world will tell you it's just how life is now. That everyone's addicted, so it's fine. But everyone's also lonely, anxious, and comparing themselves to illusions. Does that sound fine to you? So here's my challenge, the same one Jesus gave me. Put your phone down for one sunset. Just one. Don't take a picture. Don't check the time. Just watch the colors change and breathe. That's when you'll hear him. Not in the fire or the earthquake, but in the stillness you've been running from. The shadows are loud, but his voice is clear. And he's been calling your name this whole time.